Hello and welcome to our group scrapbook. The topic is skeletal system. Our group members are me, Ashad Nafha, Felicia Francis, Noora Freena, Ikmala. We are going to be discussing about parts of skeletal system. What are the main functions of skeletal system? It's mainly body support, facilitation of movements, protection of internal organs, storage of minerals and fat and blood cells. There are about 6 parts of skeletal system, which is skull, thorax, vertebral column, pectoral, limb, and pelvic. We'll be looking more into this in detail.
The function of skull is to provide protection and structure, also to protect the brain and orbit of the eyes. Here some extra information about the skull is base of the skull has humerus foramina that allow the entry lot of vessel and nerves including the cranial nerves.
Vertebral column. This is a very important part of the skeletal system. It's the central axis of the skeleton in all vertebrates. The vertebral column provides attachments to the muscle, supports the trunk, protects the spinal cord and nerve roots, and serves as a site for hemophagosis, which is known as the formation of blood cells. Usually in humans, there are 33 vertebrae in the vertebral column, which is divided into 5 parts: the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. In cervical vertebrae, there are 7 plates. The thoracic vertebrae contains 12 plates, that is, often labeled from T1 until T12. The lumbar vertebrae consists of 5 plates, the sacral, 5 plates as well, and the coccygeal contains 4 plates.
So next is thorax. The thoracic cage or rib cage protects the vital organs within the thorax. It consists of the thoracic and vertebrae, the ribs with their associated costal cartilage, ribs, body, and the sternum. There are 12 pairs of ribs which are numbered 1 through 12. All of the ribs articulate posteriorly with the thoracic vertebrae. The ribs are classified by their anterior attachments as true or face ribs. The true ribs attach directly through the costal cartilage to the sternum. The superior 7 pairs of ribs are true ribs. The false ribs do not attach to the sternum. The inferior 5 pairs of ribs are false ribs. So the sternum have 3 parts, which is the manubrium, the body, and cycloid process.
The pectoral girdle is also known as the shoulder girdle. This is the set of bones that connects our upper limbs to the bones along the axis of our body to the rest of the skeleton to provide movement and stabilization to allow the shoulder to move. The pectoral girdle consists of 2 main bones, which is the clavicle, also known as the collarbone, and the scapula, also known as the shoulder blade. Our pectoral girdle plays many important roles in our body. One of them are to provide a structural support to our shoulder region on the left and the right side of our body. Besides, these bones gives us a large range of motion connecting muscle that is essential for shoulder and arm movement. Now, we will see the mechanism of contractions and relaxation of skeletal muscle. Before that, what are skeletal muscle? Skeletal muscle is one of the 3 types of muscle in the body, with cardiac muscle and smooth muscle. This skeletal muscle is controlled by the nervous system. Each skeletal muscle is connected by the nerves to the spinal cord and brain. Humans is one of the example of vertebrates. Vertebrates move by the action of muscles on the bones. This is where the skeletal muscle plays its part. Tendons attach many skeletal muscle across the joint. This allows the muscle to contract and to move across the joints. Muscles generally work in pairs to produce movement. Like when one muscle flexes or contracts, the other relaxes, a process known as antagonism. Muscles have both electrical and chemical activity. There is an electrical gradient across the muscle cell membrane, which is the outside is more positive than the inside. The stimulus causes an instantaneous reversal of this polarity, causing the muscle to contract, producing a twitch or a movement.
We have two types of limb, which is upper and lower of limb. The upper side we have sensation, muscle strength, dexterity and coordination, arm stability, and the last one is functional performance. And the lower side limb we have for locomotion, support weight, and level when we walking. Here, four main bone group in the upper limb, which is we have a shoulder, girdle, upper arm, forearm, and the hands bone. And the lower limb, we have femur, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsal bone, metatarsal bone, and the last one is phalanges.
The pelvis is the area of the body below the abdomen that is located between the hip bones and contains the bladder and rectum. There are three main bones in the pelvis. Ilium. Ilium is the uppermost and the largest part of the hip bone. It provides structural support and protection to the internal organ. When sitting or standing, the ilium helps to support the body's weight. It helps to transfer body weight to the lower limbs through acetabulum. The lower and posterior of the three major bones that makes up either half of the pelvis. It is needed when we're walking, jogging, and other body movement. It is crucial for maintaining balance and an upright posture with minimal muscle involvement. The pubis. It is placed below the abdomen in front of the body. The bladder, uterus, ovaries, prostates, and testes are all located in this area. Function is to protect the intestine, bladder, and internal sex organ. It provides support close to the body while allowing for movement further down the leg. It has several skeleton landmarks which allow for insertion of muscle, cartilage, ligaments, and tendons.
So, I will present the function of bone and skeletal. First is support. Bone provide a rigid framework as well as support for other parts of our body. For example, the largest bone of the leg offers support to our upper body while standing up. Without our bone, we have no defined shape. Next is movement. Bone also play an important role in the movement of our body. Next is protection. Bones also protect many of our internal organs. For example of these include the way our rib cage surround organ such as heart, brain, kidney, lungs, and liver. Next is blood cell generation and maintenance. The many cells of our blood such as red blood cell, white blood cell, platelets are formed within our bones. It occurs in a part of our bone marrow. Next, the function of the bones and skeletal as a storage. Important minerals such as calcium and phosphorus are stored within our bone. When our body needs more of these resources, they can be released back into the bloodstream for use. So there are four different types of bone in human body. First is long bone. There has a long and thin shape. For example, include the arms and legs. With the help of muscle, long bone work as levers to permit movement. And next is a short bone that has a squat and cube shape. For example, they include bones that make up the wrist and the ankle. And next is a flat bones that has a flat and broad surface. For example, they include ribs, shoulder blades, breastbone, and skull bones. And the last one is irregular bone. Has varied shape that are often complex. For example, include the bones of the spine.
There are some factors affecting the growth of bones. Some of them include hormones, physical activity, nutrition, and many more. Let's look further into how hormones can affect bone growth. A hormone is a chemical compound that signals growth and development is secreted from endocrine glands. We all know that calcium is a very important element for bone growth. Strict regulation of calcium in blood is required for the growth. Bones serve as a storage area for calcium to be released when needed. When blood calcium levels drop too low, the parathyroid hormone, known as PTH, is released from the parathyroid glands. This hormone activates reabsorption, the process by which osteoclasts break down bone tissue, releasing calcium into the blood. If blood levels of calcium are too high, the thyroid gland releases calcitonin, a hormone that activates osteoblasts to remove calcium from the blood and deposit it into newly formed bone tissue. The normal range of calcium in the blood is 9 to 11 mg per 100 ml. Both calcitonin and parathyroid hormone work to maintain these levels. Puberty is also known as a factor that affects bone growth. Example, if testosterone or estrogen exceeds the normal range, skeletal growth can be largely affected. Example, gigantism. It's caused from an excess of growth hormone being produced in childhood. Another factor would be physical activity. Running, weightlifting, walking, and even the force of gravity can put additional stress on the bones. As a child learns to crawl and ultimately stand upright, the force of gravity pulls down on the skeleton, permanently altering its shape. For example, humans are born with a spinal cord, and that is relatively a straight line. Once the baby starts lifting its head and moves onto all fours, the bones of the spine starts to curve upward. Additionally, when the child starts to talk and walk, the gravity pulls down on the spine, giving it its characteristic S shape. Bones accommodate for the stress they normally encounter, and even though the bones of skeleton are perfectly capable of supporting a person's weight, additional load added to the bone, the weight gain, can cause bones to bend towards the side, leading to possible fractures and other bone problems. So it's very important us to exercise and keep our bones healthy and stay active. There's also a process by which new bones are produced. It's called ossification. It begins about the 3rd month of fetal life in humans, and it's completed by late adolescence. The two types of bone formation are intramembranous and endochondral. The intramembranous is a direct conversion of mesenchyme to the bone. Endochondral is the replacement of hyaline cartilage with bone.
The comparison between male and female skeleton. The difference between the male and female skeleton. The male endoskeleton consists of large, more robust bones and joint surfaces and more bone development at muscle attachment site. Female endoskeleton is less angular bones and shorter breastbone and slimmer wrists. The complete development of a male skeleton is 18 years old. The complete development for female skeleton is 21 years old. The male skeleton is longer, the female skeleton is shorter by 9%. The male skeletons are large and strong. The female skeletons are small in size and strength. The male skeleton has a large skull and long arms and legs. Female skeleton has small skull and shorter arms and legs. The male skull is thicker, has bony ridge on the brow line and heavier jawbone. The female skull is thinner. The male skeleton has a broad shoulder. The female skeleton has a narrow shoulder. The male skeleton has longer rib cage. The female skeleton has shorter rib cage. The male has shorter torso but long legs. The female has longer torso but shorter legs. The pelvis of a male skeleton is more heavy and thick, whereas the female is lighter and thinner. The pelvic cavity for a male skeleton is narrow, where female skeleton's pelvic cavity is wider and deeper. The sacrum is long and narrow and concave for male skeleton, whereas the female sacrum is short, nearly flat, with forward curvature in the lower part. The male coccyx is less movable. The female coccyx is more movable. The male legs are straight, the female legs are slanted. The male skeleton has large joint surface, the female skeleton has small joint surface. The similarities between the male and female skeleton. Male and female skeleton are the two types of skeletons classified based on the sex. Both skeletons are made up of 206 bones. They mainly contain a skull, rib cage, pelvis, and limbs. The main function of both skeletons is to provide support to the body while allowing movement. The biological sex of an adult skeleton may be calculated with 95% accuracy by measuring the pelvic bones, 83% accuracy by measuring the skull, and 80% accuracy by measuring the long bones.